All right, guys, welcome to this special edition of the Mario Fratto Show. We have our first ever guest on the show. It's Libertarian Larry Sharpe, and he's running for governor of New York State. I'm a registered conservative. I'm a Conservative Party county chairman. Larry is a lifelong libertarian, I believe, and he's run for governor before. I've run for Congress a couple times. I truly think you guys are going to enjoy this back and forth where we touch on all of the issues of the day. So sit back and enjoy. All right, Larry Sharpe, welcome to the Mario Fratto Show. We've never met. We've never spoken other than 2 or 3 minutes before this, prepping for this interview. But with that being said, you are a libertarian candidate for governor of New York State. I'm a conservative county chairman. We're going to find some common ground, other things we won't, but I want to discuss those issues with you now and see what you're about and see where things are in the country, in your opinion.
I love it. I was talking trash about you last week. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, so good. Yes. It's actually my third run. So it's 3 times. I am a glutton for punishment, obviously. So yeah, I've heard a lot of the arguments for and against me doing it, but I just keep doing it. So either I'm stubborn or stupid or something. I don't know. We'll see.
So what would you say is the reason? I know that obviously New York State has been a blue state for a long time, but what would you say the reason is that you feel like New York State could use a libertarian?
Because the state can't go red. It's impossible. Right. And the reason why I say it's impossible is you look at the actual number of people in the state. Of our voters, 47% are Democrats, 30% are independents, 23% are Republicans. Republicans are outgunned 3-1, 2-1 for Democrats, 3-1 against everybody else. It's completely outgunned. And people keep leaving the state. Anywhere from 100 to 300,000 every single year leave. Most of those people will be voting red or they would stay. Right. So they're leaving. They're making Florida red. So there is zero chance. I'm not even done. I got to keep going. There has not been a statewide victory for a Republican in this state in 24 years. A full generation. My kids, both of them, who are under 24, but both of them have never seen a Republican in a leadership position in this state at the top of the state. Nothing. Not senator, not governor, not AG, zero. It is a fantasy. It has not worked. It will not work. It cannot work. The numbers just aren't there. Here's the exception. Independents. Independents will shift. They will go back and forth. They will make it happen. I'm an independent. I run as a libertarian in the past. People know me as independent. I poll right now as an independent in New York State at 8%. 2 polls in a row in the last 3 months. I poll at 8%. That's where I am. That's insane. That is insane. And I have no party affiliation.
Yeah, and I do think obviously that can make a difference. I think that was closer than the margin of victory with Zeldin and Hochul, 6-7 points. So I mean 8% could definitely make a difference. But before we get into any New York State stuff, I do want to talk about the national politics right now.
Sure.
And obviously, Minnesota is a powder keg. You were talking about voters leaving New York State right now. I wish that the liberals and the Democrats would leave and go to places like Minnesota. I like the states being laboratories. You see how, that's a state that was teetering. I think President Trump only lost it by like 1.5 points the last time or the time before that. I mean, it was close. And yet it is so blue as far as what you're seeing coming out of those cities and with governors like Tim Walz. So, I mean, I think
Minnesota's the bluest state. Minnesota's been blue for like 40 years. That was part of that
blue wall, up there with Wisconsin. So, I mean, but you see that I don't think it's any coincidence. When you started with George Floyd, you just had that mayor, Jacob Fry, come in. Then you had Tim Walz that was there, and he knew about all the fraud that was going on. They were doing investigations on this years ago. I mean, years ago. They knew about all this stuff, but now you're seeing the Renee Good, the Alex Preddy stuff. I want to talk about that and see where you land and what is your take on the gun rights issue and counter that with, I guess, what rights does the federal government have to go in there with ICE, with Border Patrol, and where do you see, I guess, that clash? Which side are you on as far as what should Trump want?
Yeah. Trump did what he was supposed to do at the end. Trump's leadership was go do it. I'm going to go over to Greenland and Europe and Israel. I'm going to go do other stuff. Go do it. He's done that with RFK Jr., which has worked out very well for RFK Jr. He did it with Kristi Noem. It has failed. Kristi Noem has failed in what she's done. Now, you might go, wait a minute, Larry, this is the fault of the Minnesotans. It is. But she should have known that. And Trump figured it out when he came back. How do I know this? The reality of it is this is a failure of leadership. Now, this is not a cop-out. This is a failure of leadership, and they knew better. You cannot, we know this, you can't have federal agents from the border go to Minnesota and try to arrest people and get it right. This is a local police issue. If you don't coordinate with local police, you're going to fail. How do we know this? Memphis, Texas, Tennessee, and Texas, they both, J.D. Vance said it. He said their governors and their mayors are coordinating with ICE. What should happen is the local people who don't have enough resources to take care of all the immigrants instead say, we know where they are. We know what's going on. This is our area. ICE, assist us here. Assist us there, whether that's with bodies or vehicles or intelligence or whatever that local police force needs. Everybody knows this. And that's why it worked in Tennessee and it worked in Texas. Now, hold on, let me finish my point. In Minnesota, they knew it wasn't going to work. And here's the worst part. You think Tim Walz cared those people are dead? No. He loves it. They're raising money off it right now. They're literally saying, stop ICE. You got to send me $10 today. Send me $25 today so I can stop the evil.
Oh, yeah. What was it? Rahm Emanuel's brother there, whatever. Never let a good crisis go to waste.
Absolutely.
I mean, this one is beautiful for them, and it's motivating 100%. People. And this division, they are truly tearing the country apart on this issue. And it's just, to me, I think it's really sad, though, because it's one of those issues where if you look at what's happening, there's good points on either side, but nobody wants to give an inch because they know what that means. If we, that are on the right, like I said, I'm a registered conservative. If I come out and I say that, you know what, it is a tragedy, and I don't think Alex Preddy needed to die over that. There could have been some failures on the part of law. There could have been a lot of things. And I say that, then the left is going to come out and say, see, you admitted that you guys slipped up, just like you did with Renee Good, just like you did this. You give them that inch and they take, and it's Trump
already did it. Trump came back and recognized.
Right.
Noam, what are you doing? Why did you go in there knowing the Democrats are going to eat this up, knowing people are going to die, knowing they're going to immediately jump on board and raise money off this? What were you thinking? That's why he's mad at her. And then he went in and he said, we're going to coordinate. Which is what should have happened in the first place.
Oh, yeah. And I agree. I just did a video the other night where I basically said, I think that they caused this by forcing the feds to go onto the streets. If they would just call them and say, hey, we just arrested a guy. We know he's a known sexual predator. We got him in custody, but we're going to give him an appearance ticket for a month from now. And then instead they say, wait, do you know where he is? No, we're not telling you where he is. We got to come in, knock on doors, ask neighbors. So they've created this to call it the Gestapo. But look, they came out and said that this guy was a domestic terrorist with Alex Preddy, that he was dangerous, radical. But now you've seen the new footage, I'm guessing, of him 11 days prior. Did you see that? Of him kicking out the taillight, swearing, spitting on the vehicle. I mean, what they showed there was worse than what was happening with him the day he was killed, no doubt. I mean, he literally attacked a vehicle, kicked out the taillight, spit on them, and
but
they didn't even.
Is my point.
Right, so they didn't even.
You know that.
Right. But my point is, these people aren't mentally stable. Like, I don't care which side you're on. If you chase down a lot, like this guy, he wasn't a protester. He was somebody who was looking for law enforcement, had an app where they would tell him which plates could be government vehicles, telling him locations where they could be. And my take on it is that if I was in my local city here and I saw a cop, it looked like he was following somebody, he pulls over, he chases somebody down to make an arrest, and I pull over my vehicle and start chasing after him and filming him and screaming at him and blowing a whistle, do whatever. There's something mentally wrong with me. That isn't me being a protester. That's me feeling so, worked up, enraged, emotional, whatever passion you want to call it. But I don't think that's mental stability. So once I saw this new video of Preddy, in my mind, I'm thinking the guy was probably bipolar, because you have one faction of people saying he was a loving ICU nurse, he was a sweet guy, a great neighbor. He's out there kicking out taillights on cop cars.
None of that matters. I'm with you. I'm not saying you're wrong, but
right.
What?
My point is he's
not a leader, as Noam, Bavino, what they should have done is known that Waltz is not going to give a damn about any of this. He's going to raise money off of this. They should have recognized that and went, look, if we walk into this, something bad's going to happen. One of these nutcases is going to get killed. That's going to happen. And when it happens, Waltz is going to raise a bunch of money and decide he wants to run for governor all of a sudden again.
And it wasn't one. We had two within a couple weeks.
Yes.
And I mean, it was almost, it almost seems like it was the worst people you could have had in the sense for who they want as victims. You had a gay or lesbian woman who was a mother with 3 children get shot in the face. I
Yes.
mean, that was the narrative they wanted, right? Unarmed, trying to leave in her vehicle. That was like exactly what they were looking for. And then you had this guy who they say was this sweet nurse at the VA. At the VA, you know, so they're saying he helped veterans, all these people saying he helped, and then you see him get beaten up, you know, hitting the head with a gas canister or whatever, and then shot. And like you said, this is playing right into their hands.
Absolutely.
But what upsets me is now you're hearing this talk of de-escalation, and I think it's like what happened in the Summer of Love in 2020. They started to get their way. All these DEI programs came up. They said, oh, we can't do this. All of a sudden, Delta's commercials made sure that they had 1 person of every race and 2 of another. And they had all these policies implemented. And it's like, it's just like your child when they throw a fit and throw their food on the floor and then you give them their way. It's over. So in my mind, I wanted to see more of the cracking down because the narrative with these 2 deaths already happened. We basically lost that narrative to them. The left isn't going to say, well, they were just trying to do their job.
Okay,
no,
hold on. So let me touch it now. Let me touch this. I'm not saying you're wrong. What I'm saying is this is reality. I am playing practical, real politic to make this actually work. Trump had successes in Tennessee and Texas, and those are completely ignored because of what happened in Minnesota. So what should he have done? Noam should have, as soon as Good was killed, she should have been like, okay, let's back out. We're going to lose the narrative. Let's back out now, regroup, focus on our victories, and pump that through the media all day, all night. Mm-hmm. That would have been savvy communication. Pump DC. Trump's pumping DC every 5 minutes, as he should. Trump's trying to pump Tennessee and Texas. He's not doing a good job because he's got so much other stuff going on. But that's what Noam should be doing.
And not what else? What else happened?
Should be pumping it.
The fraud story just disappeared.
Correct.
It's like they got exactly like Walz might even maybe Walz is going to run again now because he feels like he might ruin Klobuchar's plans. I mean,
a lot of people who are considered are mad at me for telling them the truth, which is sometimes you don't lose the war, but you can lose a battle. And when you've lost the battle, withdraw. Do not throw more men into the meat grinder. Withdraw from that battle, regroup, counterattack. Trump did that when he got back. A little bit late because even he saw it. He's like, okay, let's pull out, regroup, make a deal. We'll fight someplace else. We'll get other victories. Politics is not about effectiveness. Politics is about marketing and branding. I wish it wasn't, but it is.
No, what's the test? To have a beer test? Who would you rather have a beer with? Like you said, I would have, it was Obama or John McCain. I mean, they put up these candidates that were just like, I mean,
look, I am not an Obama fan, but the guy was cooler than McCain. I'm just
there was, that's the thing. A lot of people aren't that political. I mean, like I think I heard you say 70% of New Yorkers almost didn't vote in whatever it is. I mean, it's just you're at a point where most people are tuned out. So the only thing that gets them to tune in is charisma, personality, likability, somebody that they feel like can relate to them on some sort of level. But policy is very small for the majority of voters. There's always the only voters that are really into policy are usually primary voters. And I mean, look, I ran for Congress twice. We had an 18-20% turnout. I mean, you know what I mean? Like you're talking 80% plus not voting in a district with hundreds of thousands of voters. You're having 30,000 vote. I mean, it's insanity, but that's where we're at right now. And so I don't disagree on that. I want to ask you about also what you saw with that attack with Ilhan Omar. And I say attack, but they're saying this guy was a Trump supporter. Did you see the clip?
Yeah.
Did you see the syringe? And apparently they confirmed it was apple cider vinegar. But Trump came out and said that he thought this sort of...
So I do get that.
Yeah, right. And I heard some of the people saying, oh, it smells terrible. What is that? And they were like, it's pungent, obviously, but it clearly wasn't done to inflict harm. I don't think that she's some sort of, hero now. And what was bizarre to me seeing it was how she ran at him like this and was acting like before, right as the guy was wrapping him up. And in my mind, look, I'm not going to put all women into a box or even all men for that matter. But if you just had an unknown substance sprayed on you because she probably couldn't even smell it the second it came out of the thing. You don't know if it's acid, something. You don't know what it is. And this guy is obviously nuts if he really did do that, and he wasn't put up to it or whatever by them. But
Do
if it
we
was
know yet?
legitimate, no,
Do
we
we
don't
know?
know.
We
There's
don't know.
there's
Okay.
memes going around. I saw something say he works for her husband's winery and he's got a salary of 50,000 a year, and
Wow.
their comparison. I don't know that that's true.
We don't
These
know
things
yet.
float
Okay.
around, but
Yep.
let's just say that it was a legitimate thing and he was just a Trump supporter. Obviously you would be freaked out. He's sitting in the second row, and the second you say Kristi Noem should resign, he runs up, no, you should, squirt something on you. She darts off the stage like she's going to fight the guy instead of figure out what's wrong. It just seemed a little fabricated to me, not to say that it was, but do you think that's also to take the heat off of her? Because I saw The View covered this and she came out, she said, no, we're continuing. Now, let's contrast that. President Trump got shot, throws his hands up and says, fight, fight, fight. Roosevelt took a bullet to the chest and for whatever finished his speech. You have Ilhan Omar get squirted with vinegar and they tell her, let's go get you medical care. And she says, no, I'm staying because we're Minnesota strong. And now she's like the face of this resistance for DC, on a national stage to come out here. And it worked because The View is mad that Trump said it was fake, but they said he faked the shooting and that he was just putting a bandage on his ear. So where do you think she fits into all this and the rhetoric that she's put out, just, being somebody from Somalia, being somebody who calls that place her country? Where do you think she fits into the fabric of this country?
We're in such a left-right paradigm so hard that we have a situation to where now if someone else loses, we consider that a win. Meanwhile, my kids still can't read. I can't pay my rent. I can't afford my brand new car. My taxes are too damn high. I feel like the world's ending. If I'm young, I can't find a girlfriend or a boyfriend, right? All that's still happening. And we care about whether Ilhan Omar got apple cider vinegar sprayed on her or not, right? But I'm serious. It's what we are.
Right.
That's what most people are talking about. The local stuff, the stuff that really matters, people rarely talk about because we make it to where it's almost like it's blood sport at the highest level. It's the New York Yankees versus the Boston Red Sox every single day.
And I view that. Yeah, and I agree with that. I view the Democrats as a coalition of mostly single issue voters that if you could talk to them on all the issues, they would agree with, and obviously you have a different position because you're social issues, and we'll get into that. But I mean, if you take, let's just say, a typical Republican platform, and you went to, I remember they did this during the time that Obama was running, and they went to, like, say, African American men in the United States and went around and they told them all of the Republican policies, like going into chasing down the terrorist, being against gay marriage, all these conservative issues. And they were like, yeah, they supported all of it. And then they'd tell them, no, Obama's against all that. And the other guy's for that. And they say, oh, well, wait a minute. Because now I just can't be Republican because I'm black and I have to vote Democrat and I'll be seen as somebody that's against my own people or a traitor, or all the terms they're going to use.
Let me give you two parts of that. The first one is I'm black on my father's side, and my black side of my family now is in Florida, not in New York anymore. They're like all New Yorkers.
Lucky people.
They go to Florida. Yeah, they're all in Florida now. And you're right. They are very Southern, as you would imagine. They go to church. They own guns. They are very conservative. Vote Democrat. Absolutely true. You're right. I see it all the time. And if you ask them why, it will tell you something very important. Oh, Republicans are racist. They hate black people.
Exactly. And now and now do another group, gay people. Oh, I love everything. Oh, they're bigots. They're homophobic. Oh, I'm Muslim.
Yes.
Oh, well, they're Islamophobic. Oh, I'm a woman. Yes. Well, they're misogynist. They hate women.
Yes.
Every single issue. Oh, well, I'm just atheist. Oh, well, if you're not Christian, they want you out of the country. So you could have them on every issue, and then they beat that drum, and now you have this coalition of people that have nothing in common. What does and to stereotype a typical African American man have in common with a transgender person? Whatever, and they say, oh, it's our civil rights. We got to march together, and they're trying to unite all these people that really don't even like each other. They just all are these single issue.
But it's both sides of this. I'm being very clear. I know you're not going to want to hear it, but it is both sides of this. The idea is that why would you support somebody who you think hates you? Now, again, I'm going to give Trump some credit here. Trump went to the Bronx, and all Trump did was show up and go, "Hey, I'm here, and I'm not going to pander." That's it. What a home run. What an amazing thing. Why? Because, this is very forward, for you more right-leaning people, the Republican Party does a terrible job at outreach when it comes to the Black community. It's a terrible job. Trump's the exception. Trump's amazing at it. Democrats have great rhetoric. They completely screw the Black community over consistently and have done for decades. But their rhetoric is very nice. Democrats usually have better rhetoric. They talk nice. They sound nice. Mamdani, we're all getting free buses, right? It sounds amazing.
Larry,
Republicans don't do that well. What Trump did well is he showed up and said, "Hey, remember when I was president? You guys had jobs. Remember that?" And they went, "Damn, he's right." That was that
Right.
simple.
Yeah.
And
No.
and you saw a huge chunk of Black and Hispanic, particularly men, but women also, who moved towards Trump. But here's the issue. They didn't move towards Republicans.
Yeah,
They
he's
moved towards Trump.
Yes, I agree. Like he's and to a lot of even Republicans now, they're trying to ostracize him. He's becoming a pariah to these rhinos that I call them, but the rhinos are growing. I mean, I see votes in Congress where almost half of the Republicans are voting for things with the Democrats that a normal Republican just a few years ago would have said, "I'd never vote for that." So I see that, and I want to, I view it like this, and I'm going to be straight up here. I think that if you're a good person, just at your core, nobody's perfect. I'm a
Sure.
Christian, and it's like everybody's got is a sinner. But if you look at what motivates somebody and it's coming from a good place, that's what I care about, because then we can talk. And the way I look at it like this, to segue into what I want to talk about with you on some of these issues, is if you are pro-life and you're pro-choice. Let's say I'm pro-life. Say are you pro-choice?
I am pro-choice, but I am anti-abortion. I'll explain how
Okay.
when the time comes.
That's fair enough. But let's say that if I'm pro-life and it's because I believe that at conception that is a human life, and I want to save children, and I love babies. I have two beautiful children, and that's what motivates me, and it's the love of children. Then that's a pretty good reason. Whether you agree with me or not, that's good. Now, what the Democrat will say about that position of a conservative is, "Oh, well, you're a misogynist who wants to control women's bodies, and that's why you do it, because you hate women." Now that sounds awful, right? And they're putting
Yep.
the worst motives onto you. Now you can do the same thing with the border, right? Now, no, and let me go back though. The leftist position on pro-choice is to say, well, we care about women and we want their lives to be better and we don't want them to get in bad situations. And there's some 18, 19-year-old girl that got pregnant, can't afford the baby, whatever, and her life's going to be turned upside down. And that's their reasoning. Not that I agree with that, but that's their reasoning. So it's coming from a good place, but I think it's misguided. But if I say, oh, the reason you want to be pro-choice is just to kill babies because you guys are sick, now, if that's true, they are bad people. Same thing with the border. I just had somebody say to me, somebody that I know wrote something on Facebook and said, "Oh, if you're black or brown, he doesn't like your kids because he's supporting ICE." Now, I'm thinking they want to put the rhetoric out there that the reason
Yep.
I don't want Mexican people coming into the country illegally is because they're brown. But let's say it was Chechnya, some third world republic, right? That's a war zone. And they all had blonde hair and blue eyes, and it was on our southern border, but it was fentanyl, it was human trafficking. You think I'd be like, well, they got blonde hair and blue eyes, let them all in. So if they believe that, they think I'm an awful person. But it's because I love my country, my family, the people who built things here that pay the taxes, and I deserve they should be treated better, right? So it's like, I think there are genuine people on the left, like even say Bernie Sanders. 99% I might disagree with him on, but I do think he genuinely believes those policies will help people, and he's passionate about it. And we can talk and just argue, but at least it's coming from a good place. But if it's really like, oh, if tomorrow his state went red and he'd just flip-flop and say, as long whatever I got to say to get elected, and he doesn't genuinely hold those views, then he's a bad person. And the problem, to close this thought, the problem is, and I think it was Shelby Steele, I can't remember who said it, but he said Republicans think Democrats are people with bad policies, and Democrats think Republicans are bad people. So once they can do that and just say, well, you're a racist, you're a sexist, you're homophobic, there is no discussion anymore. The policy can't be discussed.
You gave me a lot there.
Yeah, and I want you to start with what you said about being pro-choice and kind of go down those issues.
Yeah. All right. the if you watch the pro-life movement, it was actually winning. And how was it winning? Because the early pro-life movement was very mean. I'm talking 70s, 80s. It was very much about God hates you, you're a terrible person. That's how it began. Well, not began, but that's where it was getting more TV and getting more pushed back in the 80s. It was a very mean initially. It was very self-righteous. But at one point, what happened is that the pro-life people got smart. And it was what I would always talk about. Look, say you're pro-life, stop just saying the moms are evil. Stop saying you care about the baby. Let's protect the baby. And there was a shift around the 90s or so in that area where the rhetoric began to change. And it began to say, no, we actually are pro-life, right? We want to help the baby. We want to help. And what wound up happening is that's when the centers came up. Women would come and give them other options other than just abortion. They would actually talk them through things. That wasn't how it started. It started with, you're evil, you're mean, no help, God hates you. That's where it began. So the older people in this movement, they still feel like, oh, you pro-life people are evil people because they remember that from the 70s, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that was not true in the 90s and the early 2000s. The problem is Roe v. Wade. When they were going to overturn Roe v. Wade, I told people it's a mistake. Don't do that. It's a mistake. Right now, the pro-life movement was in the ascendance. It was growing. The best defense against abortion is women choosing to not have abortions. It is actually a cultural issue more than a legal issue has ever been. It is a cultural issue. That's the reality. You might go, but Larry, it's murder. Culturally, we accept murder in different cases. War as an example and things like that. We accept things differently in case of cultures. The culture has to change. We have to create a culture of life,
and
not just and we were doing that.
Yeah, and I think those are valid points, but I would push back in the sense that say, yes, we do allow murder in, like, public an execution for a criminal.
Sure.
We're murdering someone. I mean, there's it's premeditated murder. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way around that. So it's like, where can you justify it? And I guess what the stance is that it's just like with the Titanic, women and children first. Who did you see as the most vulnerable that deserve protection? You get to the point where it's like that seedling that's a human being there that is the most vulnerable, nobody's speaking up for. So if I almost have a duty, if I genuinely believe that it's unjustifiable murder, if that's what I truly believe in my heart, and I don't act on that, because I would get asked when I was running for Congress, if a national abortion ban came onto your desk that you could, I don't think with states' rights, I don't think that that's legal, that could be effective from just a federal perspective. I don't. But if you give me the opportunity and it's on my desk, I will sign that, because now it's in my hands. I have a conscience that if I have an opportunity to fight that, I will.
So,
and I think it comes back to.
Let me push back now. Let me push back on you now. That's you not actually making impact. That is you virtue signaling. And here's why. If you banned abortion tomorrow, you signed the document, would abortion go away? Of course not. All that would be is more fighting. And what would happen? 90% of women in this country would say, oh my God, he hates women. You would turn this into what you just said. Now Republicans hate women, which is what happened.
I agree. But I agree.
Let me finish my point. You went on. Let me finish your point.
Yeah, okay.
You were fighting all day. I was telling you how we were winning the cultural war. It was clear we were winning it. More, even in my Libertarian Party, which is notoriously pro-choice, we were going up to 30 to 40% of people who were pro-life in the Libertarian Party. The culture war was being won. And then we started being hardcore again. That's not the right answer. The right answer is having a very serious commitment, which I have. Here's why I would not sign that bill. Because all I'd be doing is punishing poor women. How do I know this? I don't say this I'm practical in my views. I want fewer abortions in the state. I want a place to where eventually this state has the lowest number of abortions in the entire country, to eventually where almost no one gets one. That's what I want. Now, if I ban it, will that be the case? No. The reverse. The backlash will be insane.
Okay.
We see it already. And you keep going. Hold on. I'm going to give you exactly evidence of this. You look at the UK. Ireland decided to end their abortion ban. What was one of the reasons why? Because wealthy Irish women were just flying to the UK and getting abortions. Poor women were not. What winds up happening is you don't have fewer abortions. You have fewer safer abortions, and you punish poor women. How do you have fewer abortions? By making the most important thing. If you've done any homework, and I don't know if you have, I have, because this matters to me. The vast majority of women who get abortions, they believe it is their only option. The vast majority do. If you can get women to understand, it's not your only option. In fact, there are better options. There's lots of options. If you get them to understand that, many of them will simply not do it. And when others don't do it, this becomes a cultural issue. Women say to each other, just get rid of it. They say that.
Right,
You know
right.
this. I know
Yeah,
it
yeah,
too.
yeah.
If women start going, hey, maybe you shouldn't. Have you thought of this? Have you thought of that? It will change. This is a cultural battle we were winning, and we need to win again.
Yeah, and I would say that I would rather do both. I'd rather do everything you said and still make it illegal. You know what I'm saying? That's
But
my
they
thing.
don't
Like,
work.
no, I
It
know, but
doesn't
I'm
work.
saying in the sense that it's just, and you gave me the perfect segue. But what I'm saying is to say, make sure they know about all these options, have these
Yes.
care centers, have these, let them
Yes.
know what they could do, but still say that also isn't an option. If they still go get one and people die and things happen, it happens. But I'm saying it's the same as with drugs. No, right. But let's segue now to that because it's a perfect one. Because I do want to focus on some differences as far as
Please.
because people want to know. Like I said, I'm a conservative, and I'm sure on the fiscal stuff, you might go further than some people who are Republican or conservative. As far as, like I said, I might say, I want to get rid of a certain department. You might say, let's get rid of two. Or I might say, let's cut something by 90%. And you might say, let's cut it by 100%. And it's like, so on those issues, we'll probably agree and say, wow, this is good. But this is a perfect segue off of abortion. I think it sounds like what you're saying, that your logic is the same with drugs. Like, let's say cocaine, it's illegal. It's still there. People still do it. Let's just give people education about why they shouldn't do it. Let them know what drugs can do to you because they're bad. Show them, people going through withdrawals, whatever, people who ruined their life, and let them make the decision. And I will say to you, if every person was a good person with discipline and self-control, and you had like these like cookie cutter people, in principle, I could agree with you on something like that. Like, let's say for drug, in the sense of if some guy lives by himself, he pays his bills, he does, minds his own business, and he wanted to use drugs in his home without anybody knowing what he's doing. And technically, he's breaking the law from a freedom standpoint. That doesn't feel right that the government should be able to tell that man he can't do that. Like, I can see that point. But as somebody who believes in the republic and voting for elected representation, I will vote for somebody that says I'm going to make that illegal, and that's my right. And if the majority of people want that to be illegal, then they can live in that society. And I will say, as you get older, and just me becoming a father, that I don't want to live in a town or a city or a state where they say cocaine and heroin's legal. Yes, it's still going to exist when it's illegal, but there you probably could see an uptick. Maybe you wouldn't, maybe you would, but just morally, I don't want to live there. So I can vote for somebody who says I'll outlaw it, and that's how I choose to live. And then, you could vote for somebody to legalize it. But I mean, give me your perspective now on the drugs.
The fact that you think we disagree on abortion is incorrect. We absolutely agree on abortion. The difference is I'm giving you practical ways to actually make few of them. I have evidence on how it has worked to have fewer abortions, and I've shown the exact reverse of what you're saying. We got rid of Roe v. Wade, and what did New York State do? We codified Roe v. Wade in our Constitution. The reverse happened. Now in New York State, which is an embarrassment, we pay people from other states to come to our state and have abortions. Literally what you said, what you wanted to do, made more abortions in this state. I'm not mad. I'm showing you you're utterly wrong in your outcome. You are morally correct. I agree with you morally. In your outcome, I'm showing you evidence in New York State. It has failed. My outcome, winning the hearts and minds of people over time, was winning. We were having fewer abortions. We were having more people become pro-life. My way was actually winning. So we agree on the outcome. We disagree on how to get there.
I'm just saying, even like, let's say for murder or guns or whatever, yes, we could make murder legal, and even if somehow it made murder go down, but like from a moral standpoint, I'm just saying we have to just say you can't, because we don't accept. It's like it's a reflection of your society, and that's all I'm saying is, like, I don't want to live in a society where we say those things are okay, so I have the right to vote for people.
But I'm going to give you a proof that that's not true also. The question is a cultural issue. The example I'm going to give you, and everything I'm giving you is examples. In certain parts of the Middle East, honor killings are okay. meaning that if your daughter or sister in your family does something wrong, they shame the family, you may murder them culturally.
Right.
So they decided, well, now we're Western, we're outlawed. Didn't change it at all.
Right.
And in fact, the judges and the juries kind of felt like, so you would murder your sister to give it like a year, and that's it.
Right. Right.
So what had to change? Culture had to change. What I'm saying is abortion was part of American culture, sadly, but it was already. So you can't just outlaw it. You have to make the cultural changes.
Well, but also the
and
penalty.
then you can do it.
That's been a huge argument. Remember when they were asking Trump and they do these gotchas and say, oh, so do you think the mother should be jailed then? But what you just said about the honor killings, I mean, you said, oh, they give them a year. What if they got hung, summary execution? Because over there, they don't have the same legal system.
They wouldn't.
Obviously.
You're asking that would never happen because their culture wouldn't allow it.
Right.
Hold on. If they actually did that, that magistrate would find himself hanging from a tree.
Right. Well, yeah. And that you're right. And you know what this reminds me of? And I will say, and I was when I was younger, I've been a lifelong registered Republican, now conservative, but I liked Ron Paul. I thought he was usually a lot of the stuff he said came to be true, especially on foreign policy stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and you see the Republican Party going towards that now, as far as, well, you know, President Trump's done some things here and there, but compared to the typical neocon and Democrat way, the war machine, the military industrial complex supporters, he was kind of going more isolationist, just saying we'll pull out of the UN, we'll pull out of NATO, we're talking about leaving everything behind. And Ron Paul would consistently say the blowback.
Yes.
If you've been killing people for generations in a country, no wonder the kids grow up hating you. I mean, this stuff happens. So I see on the practicality, but what I'm saying is you also agree that even if the outcome isn't any better, that people are entitled to vote for that. And put it this way, but hold
on. But your question was, would I sign that bill?
Yeah, and you're saying no.
And I said no because I need a cultural shift. We have to get back to making it a culture war because that was what it actually is.
And your argument is that it would set us back. Like if we signed that then they just right.
I'm not saying it would. I'm saying the second we get rid of Roe v. Wade, what happened in New York State? New York State went from just being a pro-choice to in our Constitution. And we pay, it's embarrassing, man. We pay people to have abortions in New York State. They come from other states.
I understand that. But what we didn't do, that's different because all we did is kick it back to the states and say that the state couldn't outlaw it, right? You know, or that was what it was before. They couldn't. So now we say, okay, you can, or you can say a 2-week ban. You can do whatever you want now. It's up to the state. But what I'm saying is they should have went the other way with it and say, no, that no state's allowed to do it, period. And if you do, those states can put the penalties on it. I think you would see a decrease. That's all I'm saying. If New York
evidence
do
of that. They did
well,
that
it's never
in other
happened.
states.
No,
Yes,
but
other countries.
No, nationally, I'm saying. Oh well,
and it fails. You're saying stuff. I get.
But you don't think the numbers went down at all in any other country?
Then why does Italy now have it legal?
Yeah, that makes me. Yeah, don't come on, Larry. I didn't bring you on here to get me sick, Larry. No,
no.
I'm just kidding.
No, but look.
No, you're
Mario,
right. You're right, though. That's terrible.
Important here.
Yeah.
I am talking about really having impact on I will make a promise that no other governor will. That after 4 years of me being governor, there will be fewer abortions in New York State. I make that promise. Because I will make it to where it is an actual cultural issue that women have an opportunity for things like surrogacy, things like adoption, things that people will be able to say, you know what? No, I have other choices. And when that begins to happen, what gets women to have abortion? I have abortions very often, other women. If you think in any way, shape, or form that if President Trump tomorrow signs an executive order going, all abortions illegal, that New York State women are going to be okay with that? No way. Impossible. Never going to happen. Never. It's a fantasy.
Now, okay. And look,
let me move the drugs now. You gave me a lot. I got to get, you gave me a lot. Let me respond. You also about drugs. I never said, you've never heard me say cocaine should be legal, heroin. I never said that. What I said is we have to move forward on cannabis. That's what I said. Why do I say that? Because cannabis
but before you get there, so you don't think they should be. Are you saying you don't think cocaine?
I've never said that.
Okay.
I've never said that.
I just wanted to clarify that. So you don't think hard drugs like that should be legal?
Cannabis.
Okay.
Always cannabis. Why cannabis? And I focus on this. The current way of doing cannabis is a disaster. We should just treat it like a plant, except you cannot purchase it at retail if you are if you're under 18 years old. That's it. Why? You begin to build that. Here's the issue. The vast majority of addicts that we have right now is people who are somehow prescribed an opioid, not people who were in trouble, down and out. No, the vast majority, 80% are that. Well, what happens if all of a sudden you could instead not choose an opioid if you don't want to? You can instead choose a cannabis product. Cannabis product is nowhere near as addicting as opioids and actually helps people to get off opioid drugs by dealing with withdrawal symptoms. I know this. My mom was an addict. My mom was a felon. I know this very well. If you had a felon or an addict in your life, you know what I'm talking about. Withdrawal is horrible. So if we can make this work, you will see people begin to come off of these drugs. That's what I want. If you notice everything I talk about, while I may agree with you on a moral issue, I'm about what's the right outcome. I'm tired of trying to act like if I just yell louder, people will stop.
Yeah, you're being, I get the pragmatism. I get the pragmatism.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I get that. I get that the you're trying to just get a better result and it's not just always standing on, a hill to die on. But I would say that there is a point that I feel like once we get, like we're at a point right now, let's just take the transgender thing, that it's so extreme. I'm gonna tell this story because I got my hair cut for this today, Larry. So I was talking to my barber, and barbers, there you go. Very good. We go to the same guy. So he was telling me that they told him never talk about politics or religion. I said, that used to be everything. I said, but that's smart for a barber because you got all these chairs, got all these people. You don't know what they agree with. You just want them to keep coming there. And they just want to shoot their mouth off, let them talk. So it's a nightmare for my barber.
Not a lot if you're a barber, just not a lot.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. He's just like, geez, here comes this guy again. I switch from every 4 weeks to 5 weeks to give him a break. But so I'm talking to him and he said, have people ever like approached you when you're out and like confronted you? And I said, yeah, twice. Once a woman came up to me, and which was very awkward because her husband and her son were talking to me at an event saying how much they supported me. And he goes, our family supports you. All of a sudden she storms in and says, all people are people and they deserve to be treated like human beings. And I said, what are you talking about? But Fox News had did a story on me getting banned from Twitter over this gender diagram I did about transgenderism, basically saying that it's a mental illness, showing like a Venn diagram thing and whatever. And I said, what are you talking about, transgenders? And she said, yeah. And I said, look, I believe in the freedom to do or be whatever you want to be. Just I'm not playing along with it. If I think it's a man with a beard and you're telling me you want to be called ma'am and I have to, say she and her, I'm not doing it. She goes, well, you should walk a mile in their shoes. She got so upset. These people looked highly uncomfortable because they told me they were supporters, but was very awkward. And then another instance, I was out to dinner with my wife. One of her, somebody she had been friendly with was walking by. We were ordering our food. They stepped to the side and they had another person with them that I never had met. My wife had never met, just a friend of this girl. And she said, I ordered for my wife. And she goes, what do you think you're doing? She can speak for herself. Like, you think you need to order for her? This person I've never met who was a friend of, and I said, what are you talking? But she knew who I was and figured since I'm conservative that I'm, misogynist or whatever it was. I got irritated. I said, how dare you? My wife were trying to order food. She wanted me to because she's uncomfortable, right? And she wanted me. That's my marriage you're talking about. And they feel so emboldened, these people, that if you offend them in any way, and to me, this transgender issue has gone so far that I don't think anybody who's on the left that truly believes in all this, I don't see us reuniting because we're so far out there now. Like, these aren't things anymore. When you're telling me a man is a woman and a woman's a man, we've lost the ability to have a conversation.
Let me touch 3 pieces. You always give me a lot. So let me try to cover a bunch of them. All right. First piece. When it comes to what we've been talking about so far, I'm talking about having actual answers that make people's lives better. You are talking about what is morally correct. We're talking at 2 different issues. I'm not arguing with you about the moral correctness of this. What I'm arguing is the current way of doing this has been failing for 24 years. That's what I'm telling you. It's an entire generation of failure. The state is just getting bluer and bluer and bluer, and shaking your fist at that doesn't work. That's what I'm saying. The outcome is not working. Being angrier and more conservative and shaking your fist more is not the answer. I'm not saying you should be more conservative. I'm saying what matters in politics is things like tactics, communications, ideas, things like policies that people can move forward, shifting the Overton window. What the Democrats have done so well, to your point, is shift the Overton window, and Republicans have failed that miserably. I'm
Larry,
trying to change that.
Bill Clinton would be a good Republican right now.
Correct.
This
Yes.
is like if you listen to those clips of him with the 94 crime bill, with talking about the border, the era of big government is over. I want to hear Republicans talk. I mean, it's just sickening to me. And then
So
you
you're
look at,
agreeing with me.
you know, JFK would be a conservative. I mean,
Yes.
it's like, but they talk about him being this liberal champion. I'm thinking the guy was a Catholic in the 60s. He was very, he was masculine, he believed in gender roles. He didn't support gay marriage. He didn't support any of this stuff. So
Obama didn't support gay marriage.
Exactly. That's
I'm with
right.
you.
Yeah. Exactly.
He just moved the Overton window. So I'm trying to say, Republicans, stop thinking in New York State. I'm being clear. Certain states is totally fine. In New York State, you've got to start moving the Overton window. That's what I'm saying. And here's the next piece. If you remember, the Democrats went too far. How many Democrats, mainstream Democrats now, talk about gender at all anymore? Very few. They actually recognize they went too far. When Trump was elected, I said it then and I'll say it now. That election was the stop scolding me election.
Right.
That's what it was. Stop scolding me. Stop telling me I have to love Kamala Harris because she's a black woman. Stop saying that. I don't have to do that. I'm not required to do that because you tell me that. That's not requirement. I'm going to go back to Trump because at least that guy won't tell me that. Right. It was to stop scolding me. You're right. So if you look at Democrats today, look, this is my life. I spend all my time watching these guys talk. The Democrats hardly ever bring it up anymore. They learned their lesson when they got spanked in 2024. They're like, oh, that didn't work. Republicans bring up gender now more than Democrats do because they don't want people to forget. That's why you do it.
It's a winning issue for us.
Correct. It's a winning issue. Republicans know that. So now it's smart for them to bring it up. Democrats don't bring it up at all. They're like, I don't remember that. The gender? I don't know. Whose gender?
But I think
they don't know anymore.
But Larry, the problem we have is people like myself, you're losing. So here's because this is what it sounds like. You correct me if I'm wrong, but we have to kind of try to meet them somewhere in the middle or try to do something to pull them in. But my issue with that is if we do that, then you also start losing your base more and more. And that's what's scary to me. Like myself, when I was running as a Republican, I was a lifelong Republican, and I no longer felt when they asked me to be chairman of the Conservative Party, I had their endorsement of this committee before when I ran, and I liked the group of men and women there. And I said, you know what? I'm even more further right than a typical conservative. I mean, I am hard right. So the Republican Party doesn't go far enough for me. So the second I see them start to give on some of these issues and say, well, what's their line for abortion? Like safe and rare and, whatever it is, they say those kind of things when there's a pro-choice Republican. I can't even go with that because I'm just like, no. So what happens to the base of those? It's the same thing with the left. Anytime they do anything that's common sense, the radicals, the AOC supporters, the Bernie supporters start to come out and say, oh, you're basically a traitor.
Yeah, but they go back and vote for Democrats afterwards anyway.
They do. They do.
Just
but
like
it's only because of it's only because of the two-party system. Then guys like you come along. Yeah, but all right. But this is what I'm saying. Now guys like you come along, and my question to you is, the Democrats love you on social issues. Republicans, conservatives will love you on fiscal issues. Where do you think that you're going to do more? Because I'm going to be honest, and I please don't take this as any disrespect. I think you have a very uphill battle to win.
Of course.
I mean, you've run before. You know what the outcome was. It's very difficult. I ran for election twice and lost, so I know. And you're against a machine with money on both sides. I had Republicans against me and Democrats because I was in a Republican primary, so I get it. My question is, you have data from the past, but as things stand right now, with your policies being a libertarian, who do you think you take more of the vote from? Do you think it's equal? Do you think it's very close?
No, I just don't think. I have data. I've run twice before. I know exactly. Let me cover both parts. Number one, you gave me a lot again. All right. First part is the people on the far left and far right. Some of them I'll never get. I don't have to. I need to get 50% plus one. That's what I need to make change. If my outcomes are good, if we agree upon outcomes, that's all that matters, right? I'll go to someone crazy like Mom Donnie. Mom Donnie wants free buses. Am I against free buses? No. Am I against using taxpayer dollars to make that happen through magic and debt? Yes. But if you have a better way to get free buses, okay, I'm not against the outcome. You got to show me how to get there. If you can show me a real conservative way of getting there, my eyes are open. Let's make it happen. I'm not against free buses, right? That's my concept. You and I both want fewer abortions in New York State. We agree with that. We agree on how to get there. But if we can agree on the outcome, here's what I would ask you. Someone like Blakeman right now, who's the Conservative Party right now is saying yes to, he's utterly pro-choice. He will do nothing to make fewer abortions in the state. He will never say it, won't talk, doesn't care. He's against the Second Amendment. He doesn't care at all. He likes red flag laws, all those things. I am a libertarian, and I will say I will have fewer abortions in New York State, and people will still vote for Blakeman over me. So your idea of saying, well, I'm so far right, I won't vote. Yes, you will. We've seen this already.
And Larry, just as my duty as a conservative chairman, as a registered conservative, I am going to push back and say that I don't know that he won't do anything, even if he says he's pro-choice, because you could be pro-choice and do what you said. Maybe he would do that. I'm not going to. So I haven't heard his position. And then also on the Second Amendment.
Hold on. I'm give you. He's pro-life. You know he's pro-life. He said so. And what has been his statement on making fewer abortions in New York State? I will tell you what it is. Nothing. Look for his policies. None. I have been saying it. So maybe he'll do stuff. Yes, and maybe I'll fly to the moon tomorrow. Maybe.
I'll try to get him on here. You know, I might see him on Sunday, and we'll see. But I think
I'll be there, my friend.
Oh, you're going to be there? Okay,
I might.
Yes. Because I wasn't sure, but I will. We'll talk about that maybe after. I want to get to one more.
So let me move to my next piece, if I could, though, as we talked about this, right? I don't have to get all of them, but not just that. What are my odds of victory? Slim, of course. I'm not fooling myself.
No, but I wanted you to finish this. Where do you think?
Keep going.
Yeah, but which issue do you think? Because there has to be something that pulls somebody one way or the other. So what I'm asking
someone has to think in their head one most important thing. Am I more worried about virtue signaling or outcomes?
Yeah, but what I'm asking you is which outcomes matter more to these people?
I'm trying to give it to you. You keep stopping me. I'm
saying which issues outcomes matter more.
I'm going to tell you. So that has to be the piece, right? Do I care more about outcomes or do I care more about virtue signaling? Most people in New York State have already given up. Because they've given up, they care more about virtue signaling. But if you actually want to stay and work, you care about several things. Number one, cost of living. That's the number one issue over everything else, because people are leaving our state because of cost of living. If you can't make rent cheaper, taxes lower, salaries higher, or income better, or ownership higher, and I have policies for all of those, that motivates. When I tell people things like, and when I was on Joe Rogan, you mentioned it, when I said things like, hey, we can lease out naming rights to the bridges so that the bridges can help pay for the MTA, which lowers the price of the MTA without taxation and gets rid of all the tolls in the bridges, so the average person crossing a bridge doesn't pay that toll. That's a lower cost of living without raising taxes.
Right.
People love that kind of stuff. So cost of living is an overarching issue when it comes left versus right. When it comes to the left, cannabis. They love the fact that I want to let people have cannabis as they fit, not have to fight and get $250,000 licenses. Let people do what they want in that regard. When it comes to the right, it's Second Amendment. I'm the only one that's going to say I will pardon every single possession charge for firearms in New York State to reignite the entire debate. No one else will do that. I'm the only one who will. So those are the two on the outsides, and that's the one in the middle. Now, hold on. You said, what are my numbers? I know what my numbers are. 30% of the people who vote for me are registered Democrats. 30% of people who vote for me are registered independents or no party affiliation, and 40% are Republicans.
And so I didn't know that. Yes. And I was going to say that's what I believed. And the reason why is because I think the Democrats are so much more emotional that if they know you want to shrink government and, cut benefits in any way, and they're so socially aware of all these social justice warrior causes, then they're like, oh, then that's evil, basically, because they believe in these entitlements where Republicans can say, you know what, I can stomach some of the social stuff because they care more about the fiscal.
Yes.
And they'll say, you know what, and this is going to bring us to our last thing before we wrap here. I want to touch on taxation and what you believe is the best system for doing that, whether it's a flat tax, income tax, sales tax, but what is your position on that?
You're exactly right on what you just said. And the reality is If Blakeman is the nominee in New York State, he will lose. There's no way he can win. Why? He's Republican. He focuses on Republican. He is Trump endorsed in New York State. If you're in Oklahoma, Trump endorsement's amazing. If you're in New York State, it's a death. There's no way he can win. It's impossible. He'll never win. It's another loss. That means now we're going to have 26 years of losses.
Do you think that's why Elise Stefanik pulled out? Because
of course she did. Of course she did. She has zero chance of winning. She was never going to make anything happen. She recognized how hard it was going to be and said, what am I doing here?
But then why do you think she ran and did this big launch to begin with? How did they not?
Because, okay. You don't know the story. I'll tell you the story. Elise Stefanik was supposed to be the UN ambassador. Kathy Hochul decided she's going to go down and yell at Trump, which was insanely stupid. Trump is a deal maker. Go make a deal with the man. Curtis Sliwa said it. Everyone else says it. Make a deal with him. Mamdani even made a deal with him. I mean, he's a deal maker. Go talk to Trump, make a deal. Kathy Hochul thought she's super cool. She's going to go yell at him. She went down there and yelled at him and said, I'll do whatever I want in this election. You'll never get your seat that you want. And Trump said, go away then. Go away. You make a deal? And he said, Elise, you got to stay. Elise had to stay and couldn't go. She had already lost all of her seats that she had in her committee seats, committee chairs. She lost it. Can't make any money. So she's broke now. Relatively, when it comes to, no power and no cash coming in as a congressman. So what are you going to do? He said, run for governor. I'll back you. And she went, okay. That's why she did it. Elisa didn't want to run for governor. No, but here's the problem. And people don't get this. And if you're a Republican or conservative in this state, in New York State, recognize something. The Republican Party is maybe 2 cycles away from no longer being able to run any statewide candidates. There are 2 states where it's already happening in the opposite. In Utah, Democrats don't run for Senate anymore. The U.S. Senate, there's no Democratic candidate. Nebraska, U.S. Senate, no Democratic candidate. The state's so deep red, the Democrats, no one will run. We're almost there now in the Republican Party. The Republicans will tell you every cycle, this is our year. We can beat Kathy Hochul. We can beat Cuomo. Utter lie. If that was true, there'd be 9 people running for this election. There's not. There'd be
now, wait a minute. But go back to the last election, and that's what I think was so interesting for governor is that you were seeing Republicans running like statewide ads for a primary for governor because I believe they were correct that if there was ever a chance, Kathy Hochul had not been elected at that point. She had only taken over. She was not well liked. She looks like a psycho. I mean, yes. she's got the crazy eyes for sure. And it was just like, this is a perfect opportunity for somebody to come in. They got closer than anybody's gotten since Pataki has won, right? I mean, that was, and now okay, what? So now what do you have? Now you have a midterm coming where it's going to be so hard to win, let alone in New York State. Just to think about launching a campaign for governor is going to be really tough. So and like you said, because of the division, Blakeman probably has a better chance. Put it that way. I'm saying then Elise Stefanik. I'm saying then Elise Stefanik. When you're talking about the Trump badge, she was basically seen as a Trump. I didn't even, I'll be honest with you, up here, I did not know who Blakeman was until they said he was going to run. Elise Stefanik, everybody knows.
Okay. Let me touch so many things here. Number one, Elise Stefanik was at least known across the state. I'll give her that. She was at least known. She could raise money. She raised several $1 million. Blakeman has raised hardly anything. Most of his stuff is transferred from his other places. I think he raised like $200,000. I've raised over $100,000 and I'm some guy. He should be raising millions. Right, I raised $500,000 on my own as an independent to my run, so I can raise money. I raised $750,000 for RFK Jr. when he ran in 2024, so I can raise money. Elise Stefanik can raise money. Blakeman can't even raise money. He's transferring funds from his other runs, so that's number one. Number two, 0 chance of Blakeman winning. Why? He's not making any attempt to cross over to independents. No answers for Democrats. 0. He is just doubling down on his base. Which, again, if you're in Oklahoma, nice. You're in New York State. I'm talking practically. He cannot win because he cannot cross over. He's not exciting. He can't go on Joe Rogan. He'll fall asleep on Joe Rogan. They will destroy him. He can't go on
I'm gonna say to Mr. Blakeman, we've never met. I can't. It's very hard for me to defend him because I've never met him. But if he is going to be our state party candidate, obviously we have to support him in that way. And like I said, I'm a registered conservative. I'm not gonna sit here and tell people who to vote for, but I will say if that's who we're supporting, and on policy, I'm guessing he's going to be closer to me than you are for other conservatives. But I want to close on this issue.
Hold on, let me finish. You're right when it comes to what he will say. That's true. Here's my issue. He's not going to make any difference at all. It will just be virtue signaling. Why? He knows he's not going to win. That's why he has no policies on his website. It's not going to change anything. I have actual policies. If you care, if you're a policy wonk, go to my Larry Sharpe YouTube page and type in 8 hours. I did 8 hours straight of policy how to fix New York State. Oh, 8 hours with no extra rules and regulations.
Larry, let me ask.
So let me wrap this up. I can. Okay. Hold on. I want to get this out here if I could. All right. So if he does win the conservative nomination and the Republican nomination, chances are high he will. He'll get 30 or 40% and he'll lose. Well, oh my God, the last guy did well. Yeah, to be forward against Hochul, who was unknown. Yes, but Hochul now is
in an off year. In an off year.
Yes, Hochul's now already won. People already know her and they back her. Not just that. The last election last year, the Republican Party told its people to vote for Cuomo. Don't ever forget that. The Republican candidate in New York State got 7% of the vote. I know Curtis Lewa. I like Curtis Lewa. I think he's a great guy. I voted for him. He got 7% of the vote. Not 17, not 70. The idea that a Republican can win the state is fantasy. Why would you support him blindly? You'd be better off supporting me. Let me tell you why. Number one, if I win the Republican primary, if that actually happens and I win a Republican primary and the Republican people get smart and vote for me, and they do that, it's me against Kathy Hochul. I've been street fighting for 8 years. She will be devastated in the debates. Not just that. People say, my God, Larry Sharpe to go up against Hochul? Huh. That guy who can go on every single podcast in the country overnight and move the entire country, they will throw millions of dollars into this race. This race will explode. And that's for two reasons. Number one, press everywhere. There's a shot at turning New York State away from the Democrats. Oh my God, Democrats throw billions, I'm exaggerating, tens of millions of dollars into this state, and so Republicans. Not just that, all the people who are trying to build out their own local parties will all get funded so they can build out local infrastructure, which, as you know, is collapsing in this state. Republican infrastructure, conservative infrastructure is destroyed in this state. It'll all get refunded. There is lots of value in me actually winning. Nothing will happen with Blakeman, and he'll
Larry,
go away.
I will be practical with you, as you say you like to be, that I believe if you were heads up with Kathy Hochul, I believe you would win.
Yes.
I truly believe that. I'm not just blowing smoke, whatever. Yes, because I know you'd get those Republican voters and you'd get a lot of Democrats who just can't stand Hochul, but they can't go. So look, New York almost was purple. I mean, think about this. Florida, what became a blood red state, which was the eternal swing. Nobody in 20 years got closer than 2% in Florida as the swing state. It was, the hanging chads, everything, all the way back. And then all of a sudden you got DeSantis win it by 18, 20 points. I mean, Florida was considered blood red so Florida became, from being a swing state, more red than New York is a blue state. New York was a 6-point, 7-point state, which in your mind, you're like, how is that? That was a swing. This was deep blue. Yeah, New York was almost a swing state, it was close. But so I understand that, and you're considered like purple, as far as where for a lot of people. So that's fine. But I guess, and if realistically, it's not going to be a two-way race. So what is the goal to get the ballot? Like if you don't win,
two pieces. Hold on, two pieces. Number one, let's assume that what you said is true. You said, Larry, if it's a two-way race with you and Hochul, you win. You've just told everybody the reason why they should support me because of that piece. And that's
but you can't get that, right? How are you going to get that?
Who says I can't get that? I just need 15,000 signatures and I'm on the Republican primary. I got.
But if you don't get that, you're trying to run independent, or you're just
of course after that. I want to have multiple.
But then you need more. But then you need more signatures, right?
Which I've already gotten in the past.
Right.
We also add matching funds. Matching funds gives me $3 million from New York State. I can easily get ballot access. Easily. Imagine.
So who is declared for Republican primary right now?
Blakeman and me. That I know of. If someone else, it doesn't matter. If someone else has, who cares? I'm the only person who has any chance of any.
But your biggest problem is Republicans to vote for you over a Republican.
No, that's not mine. My biggest phone is the Republican establishment. Republican voters love me. I meet them all the time. I cross this state every single year. Republican voters love me. It is Republican establishment hates me, which they shouldn't, because if I win this damn thing, they get more power than they've ever had in 20 years. I can't fill my staff and everything with.
You know what's funny though? I'll say this. Larry, I think the Republicans think by running Blakeman that they're running somebody like you because he's a pro-choice Republican, which to a lot of Republican primary voters could be enough of a turnoff right there. So
Yep.
you're going a step further and they're like, "Oh man, we can't." But when it comes down to the general, yeah, you could probably have a much better chance because there's no doubt anybody who would argue that you wouldn't pull more Democrats than Blakeman. I mean, that's just
Correct.
that's just being honest. But I want to wrap with the final issue of
Oh, please, go ahead.
taxation, and I
Yeah,
think
let me deal
that's
with that.
one
Yes.
you'll like,
Sorry.
you
You
know.
gave me
But
a
I
lot,
do,
brother. You gave me
I
a lot.
know. Well, hey, I'm a talker, and you are too. When I laughed, my wife after I was watching you on Joe Rogan, I said, "Man, this is going to be a good one. We're both fast talking guys, and we have a lot going on in our head, so this is going to be fun." But I don't think we stepped on each other too much. We had a good back and forth, so I
Yeah,
appreciate
let
that.
me
But I
wrap
do
up
want to talk
taxation.
about,
All right.
yeah, let's talk about your position on taxes.
The number one issue we have to fix is we have to create a sovereign fund for New York State. The sovereign fund I call the New York State Social Trust. And what that means is we have to create a sovereign fund similar to Singapore has one, Norway has one, Alaska has one. We have to create that. That will take several years, probably 2 or 3 years to get up and running. You can back it with either land leases, you can by land selling, precious metals, many ways you could back it. You could back it in theory with about $90 billion in income tax. You could back it now if you wanted to, but you get that started immediately. Within 2 years, that should be able to pay for all education. Why does that matter? If it pays for education, several things happen. Dollars come directly from that trust. Now, to be clear, that trust is a separate company. It is not part of the government. The government just take it. Remember, like the lottery that was supposed to go to schools,
Yeah.
right? No, it is a separate company with a separate CEO and a separate board, just like Singapore does it, same style. And they have a charter to pay for education. So once they pay for education, several things happen. Number one, you will find that now we don't need federal strings or state strings. Education gets controlled by the local school boards again.
As it
You-
should.
As it should. Exactly. See, I'm more conservative than some people think I am. Yes,
I'm gonna
localism does matter, right? I'm giving you a way of actually allowing you. If you want to put shop back in your school, if you want to put home ec or civics in your school, now you may. You can't at the moment because the federal funds stop you. If you want to teach whatever you want to teach in your school district, teach what you want to teach in your school district.
Yeah, I call
don't
for
mind.
abolishing the Department of Ed. Like I say, what was it, 79 essentially? Jimmy Carter, you went to school, I'm guessing, in the 70s, right?
Yep.
Do you think we're turning out better students now or then? I mean,
Here's a fact that people don't know. The maximum literacy rate of the United States was 1979.
wow. And then they decided, let's insert the Fed into it, kind of like the US Postal Service,
Yes.
taking care of overnights
So
for you.
I'm not talking trash. I just gave you an actual way of making that happen. Now, once that happens, second thing happens, and that is, why do we need school tax? We don't. School tax goes away. You can eliminate school tax within 2 years. School tax being eliminated for the average New Yorker, they lose 50% of their property tax overnight.
Yeah.
Gone.
Property tax is disgusting. I mean,
Yes.
it's like some people can't even afford to live in their home after it's paid off when they reassess it.
Correct.
Seniors, I mean, it's sickening.
And I just gave you an actual way of making that happen. And
But
Blakeman will just go, we're going to lower taxes and change
But what about-
regulation or
what about
whatever.
the actual
I gave you an
budget?
actual plan.
Like, I've heard you say it, and it was a big issue in the 2022 gubernatorial race where they were talking about out migration, and they kept saying to Florida, because as you've mentioned before, Florida's population is larger than us, and they have half the budget of New York State. And even to look at it, I know you brought up, say, like Italy, per capita, their budget is about the same as the United States when you break it down, and they get free healthcare and free education with the same per capita taxes. So percentage wise, they're saying, oh, they pay so much more, but per person. So where's this money going to all this garbage? These they're studying bear DNA in Wyoming or whatever, these government programs, and they keep expanding to a point where somebody's got, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, it seems like, but I think we can.
Hold
we
on.
can throw it in the
Explain
trash
why.
and get a new one.
Let's explain why. When you add government, you remove community. Is how it works.
Yeah.
So if I want to remove government, I have to add community, which is why I have so many policies. That's policy one. You gave me one, I have more. Next policy. If you owe the government, state government money at the end of the year, whether that's through fines, fees, taxation, whatever the case may be, you may take up to $250 of that and not send it to the government, or give it to any non-government funded nonprofit in the state. If it's in your county, it's double to $500. Why? to promote localism and to allow you to take that money that you'd be sending away anyway. If you love Kathy Hochul, send her your money. I don't know why you would, but if you do, send her your money. If you don't, take $500, give it to a local guy or gal who's going to either do what your local community needs. They're going to tell you, I'm going to, fix the potholes. I'm going to create a child care facility. I'm going to take an elderly care facility, whatever the local people need, addiction facility, whatever the local people say, we need this. Let's build it. Now, you're that guy. I give you my $500. It's $500. What's that? What happens when 1,000 people do it or 10,000 people do it? Now you got a business overnight. Let's say next year, you're really bad at this. You don't fill potholes at all. You suck at this. What happens? You don't get any money. You're done. It's gone. The money goes someplace else. But when the government does it, they get more money. Well, let's say you're really good at it. You're great at filling potholes. We may give you more money next year and you'll fill more potholes. Now I'm allowing community to step up and fill the gaps of government, and government will begin to walk away. That's what I want to make happen. That's piece number 2. Piece number 3. Right now, New York State income tax, depending upon where you are in a state, is around 4%. I want a flat fee, 4%, flat fee, goes down 0.5% every year for 8 years, down to 0. Why must I do that? Because that's how the New York State Trust begins to raise money to pay for things, while local communities begin to raise money to pay for things, and we start paying our debt off. You do that in about 8 years, you can get New York State to a 0 tax state. Now, also a business tax starts at 6%, flat 6%, 0.5% all the way down 8 years, down to 2%. 2% would be the lowest in the entire country. Right now, North Carolina is 2.5%, and they're exploding because of that. What does that mean? That means people will have hope. Mario, the most important thing, and the way I will absolutely judge whether I've won or lost at the end of my 4 years as governor, is, did I stop the bleeding of people leaving New York State? It is our biggest overall issue. Out-migration is the biggest overall issue. If we stop that, it shows we've stopped other things. And if people have hope, they'll want to stay in this state. This is a beautiful, amazing state with a very crappy government. If we fix our government, we can fix our state. People will come back and stay. And that's the issue. When I'm talking about everything I've told you is actual practical answers. I didn't go, well, Hochul's bad or Trump is bad. And that's all you hear from both the sides. All Kathy Hochul says is Trump is evil,
and they want to hear
Blakeman says Hochul's horrible. I'm not saying either.
I agree. The people are fed up with that. They want to hear how you're going to make their life better. I do agree that the economic issues are the biggest issue if you had to pick one in New York State for everybody. You know what I mean? Obviously, if you're a hardcore conservative like myself, you might be way more concerned with the immigration, with transgender stuff, with abortion, but trying to get that in New York State is a real uphill battle. And it's something that, we need different factions of people fighting for different things. The people need choices. Look, we're considered a third party. I'm not a major party chairman. I'm a conservative party. So I think that there's room for people, but I also don't want to, as you said, just being pragmatic. If it comes down to you getting independent and then it's Blakeman versus Hochul, I really don't think he has a shot of winning anymore. If you're in there, because it's this election is going to be tough. It's going to be real tough. And I just don't know.
But hold on. Let me now give you the reason and what happens if I lose the primary. Say I run the primary. If the Republicans are savvy and let me run the primary and we make it happen, I lose the primary. I'll still have enough money to still be in the ballot anyway. If I get matching funds, then I'll be in the debates. It'll be me, Blakeman, and Hochul in the debates. What will that mean? They will have to have answers. That I may not win, but the impact I will have, it will get them to have answers. They can't just go, Trump is bad, Hochul's bad.
Have you done your own polling on a three-way with you guys?
At the moment, I'm at 8%.
Okay, but I'm saying but if it's just you three?
Yes, at the moment, 8%, correct.
And yes, I mean, but you think out of that 8%, probably 5 of it would pull from there and 3 would be coming from Hochul? Like if you got out? Yeah, yes. So I mean.
But here's my issue. Right now, he's not going to win. But if I'm able to get in those debates and my numbers will go up. Now it becomes 3-way race. 40% could easily win this thing.
All right, guys, we lost Larry at the end there, but please let me know what you thought of this conversation. You can leave me a comment down below. As always, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and stay tuned for more. Thanks, guys.